So the film starts and we are shown a girl named Sarah. She had shifted to a new town with her son. Her house was on the side of the forest. Her daughter's name is Chris. Sarah's husband had left her, so she used to live alone with her son. Now when she was driving her son along and both have a lot of fun while going. Suddenly Sarah's car has an accident. An old woman had come in front of her car who was standing in the middle of the road. She stops her car and gets down and asks the old woman, "Are you okay?" Because of this accident, the side mirror of Sarah's car had broken. When she goes to pick up her mirror and see that old woman, she was mumbling something in her mouth and Sarah's son keeps looking at Chris again and again. Sarah was very scared to see him. She quickly picks up her mirror and took the car and left from there. When Sarah comes to the new house with her son, Chris saw a spider which scares her. Sarah puts the spider in a net and leaves it outside. Then Chris asks her, "Why didn't you bring my dad here? If he was with us, he would have killed the spider." Saying this, he himself killed the spider. Chris runs away to the jungle in anger. Sarah was also going to her son from there. Reaching the jungle, Sarah sees a very big hole, which scared her a lot. When she was peeping inside, Chris came from behind. She quickly comes home with him. That night, Sarah also went to a dinner party. There, her friend tells her that an old woman lives in your town who looks very strange. Sarah's friend was talking about that old woman which we saw at the beginning of the story which came in front of her car. Anyway, Sarah's friend tells that the son of that old woman used to study in my class. She was forbidden to meet her mother, that is, that old woman. One day that old woman came to our school and forcibly started taking her son, on which she and her son were thrown out by the school. Which was very strange. A few days later, we found out that the son of that old woman died. But it is said that she herself killed her son in a car accident. This seemed very strange to Sarah. That night when she was sleeping, she heard some sounds from her house. When she goes out and sees, the door of the house was open and Chris was not at home. She is very scared to see this and quickly goes to the jungle to find her son. But she did not find him anywhere. Now she comes home and starts calling the police. Then she turns around and sees that Chris was standing behind her. Meanwhile, Sarah notices that her son is looking strange. In the morning, Sarah went to the doctor because she was a depression patient because her husband used to beat her a lot and that's why Sarah became a depression patient. On the way back, she also takes Chris from school. On the way, she meets the same old woman that she met before. This time her husband was also there. When Sarah was talking to her husband, the old woman comes to Chris and stands in front of the mirror and looks at him carefully. Then she says, "No, this is not Sarah's son, this is not Chris." Saying this, she hits her head on the mirror of the car again and again. Seeing all this, Sarah was very scared. That's why now that old woman's husband also takes her from there. Sarah also came home with her son. The next day when Sarah comes to meet her husband, she sees that someone had beaten her badly and her head was buried in the soil. Sarah goes to the funeral of that old woman who was now dead. But she goes to her house and sees that all the mirrors in the house were covered with black cloth. After that she meets her husband who tells her that there was a special kind of power hidden in my wife. She used to look at people's shadows and tell them how they are. And she also said the same about our son, that he is not our son, but some dark power or some evil spirit. Sarah asks, "How did she die?" "I have heard that your daughter has died." He tells, "Due to an accident which happened in my car." Sarah was a little confused hearing all this because her friend had told her that that old woman had killed her son. The next day when Sarah was sitting with Chris at her house and eating, she sees that Chris's behavior has changed, which she did not like to eat at all. One day when Sarah goes to the jungle for a walk in the morning, she finds her son's fallen soldier toy. She comes and asks Chris that, "Did you go to the jungle? I told you not to go there, why did you go there?" Hearing this, Chris was angry. He placed the table lying there towards Sarah in anger. The strange thing was that Sarah's son was very small and he had easily pushed such a big table back. At night when Sarah is going to take a bath, she hears strange voices coming from Chris's room. When she goes to his room and sees, she was surprised. Chris was sitting there eating spiders. Not only that, his body was also twisted in a strange way. Seeing this scene, Sarah gets very scared. And the next day she brought Chris to the doctor, where the doctor examines him and tells him that your son is absolutely fine. Nothing happened to him. Sarah had come home with her son and her son is not Chris. When he was sitting at the table eating food, he touches Sarah's face. The wound that was on Sarah's head, Chris, seeing it, puts his hand on his mom, that is, Sarah's wound, and opens it. She was suffering a lot. But later we come to know that this was just Sarah's dream. The next day Chris has a function at school in which Sarah was also there. During Chris's performance, she notices that he is just looking at her. Seeing this, Sarah was scared. That's why she runs out of the hall. After a while, Chris's teacher comes to him, with whom Chris was also there. Sarah started doubting him. That's why she put a camera in her son's room. After that, when she watches the videos in the camera, now she was sure that Chris is not her real son. This camera quickly takes Sarah to the husband of that old woman. Sarah tells him to watch the videos. But he refused to watch the videos because he was afraid that what happened to his wife and son would happen to him now. And breaks the camera because he remembers what his wife said, which we will come to know in the story. Anyway, Sarah came home after that. She sees Chris, who was watching TV. To check him, she tells him, "Chris, let's play your favorite game." Which was this, in which Sarah used to make a strange face. But this time Chris doesn't do anything. Sarah was convinced. She says, "Whoever you are not Chris. You are not my son." And here, that's when Chris picks up Sarah and starts kicking. He was hitting her hard on the wall, which made her believe that he was not Chris, but some evil power or some creature. And because of being very injured, Sarah was still conscious. When she comes to her senses, she was outside her house. That evil power, which was in Chris's face, he was sitting next to him and digging. After that, he pulls Sarah and buries her face in that hole. Here we know that the same evil power killed that evil woman. Because she had known about it that this is not the real Chris. That's why she was watching Chris carefully at the beginning of the story. Then that evil power becomes unconscious after burying Sarah. Sarah now somehow pulls herself out of the ground and takes that evil power, which was in Chris's face, and locks it in the basement. Then she sees her real face in the broken glass of her car, which scared her. The face of a demon, that demon is now slowly waking up. And once again, she attacked Sarah. She somehow saves herself from her. And now she was running towards the jungle where there was a very big pit. She decides to go inside that pit because she felt that her son would be here. When she goes inside, she sees a tunnel, in which she gets consciousness on Chris. That is, her real son, who was still alive. When she was coming out of the tunnel with her son, she sees many demon monsters behind her, whose faces were very strange. She also sees many skeleton, which means this demon used to eat children. He used to bring a child here from any family and keep it with him, and then he used to take his form and join his family, as it happened with Chris and with the son of that old woman. And he killed his son because he found out that the one who is living in his house is not his real son, but a demon who is in the form of his son, but he could never reach his real son. Then it started that the old woman killed her son. When Sarah comes out of this tunnel, a demon had caught her hand. She was trying to kill him with her torch. As soon as she saw the demon, she started looking like Sarah. Now she had saved her son from that big hole and brought him out. Here we also know that that demon could take the form of any person. She now goes to her house and brings the car keys. She had set that house on fire in which the demon in the form of Chris was trapped. She took her son and left from there. A few days later, we are shown that Sarah has shifted to a new town. She had also started going to the university herself, and we see Chris riding a cycle. One day when Chris was riding his cycle, Sarah quietly takes pictures of him standing in her house, in which Chris's face was a little blurred. And now Sarah had also put mirrors all around her house. That mirror was probably because she still had that demon in her house, so she could see him. And that's why she was taking those pictures. Because Sarah was very scared of that incident. She still had the same doubt that Chris is her real son or not. And with this horror ending, the story of this film ends here. Thanks for your time.